we have an interesting case in our hands. It's time to talk about a character I don't personally see many people bring up to talk about his character as a whole, but more so about his powers and how cool he is. Which isn't a bad thing, mind you, but personally, I like my character discussions to have a little bit more depth to them. Today, we're taking a look at Alucard from Hellsing. Now, while this analysis will mostly show off Hellsing Ultimate footage, I will also bring up points that are in the manga and even in the original 2001 series, since while they're all completely different, the portrayal of Alucard remains consistent throughout all of them. Okay, now that I have set the stage, it's time to bring up the things that most people know about Alucard, so everyone has a clear picture of what kind of character he is. Alucard is introduced to us as the scariest creature alive, and someone who tends to show off in dire situations. He's very egocentric, since there is no one on his level, and even goes as far as to let his enemies shoot him down first, only to rise up again and tear them to shreds as both a power move and a way to toy with his opponents, luring them in with a false sense of security, and then immediately obliterate both their minds and bodies. To put it bluntly, he enjoys the pain inflicted on him, and also torturing the opposition, with little to no respect for them. We see that there's 3 people in the show that Alucard values above most. His boss, Ser Integra Fairbrook Wingate's Hellsing, his underling, Sarah's Victoria, and Father Alexander Anderson, each representing a part of Alucard that I will expand upon as we progress through the video. But first, who was Alucard before all this? Who was the man before the monster? What happened to create the most terrifying being alive? Flashback to the 1400s. Vlad Tepes was but a small child. We don't know much about Alucard's early life, but we know that he was a child soldier and a sex slave, and we can deduce, as he is being sodomized by a Turkish warlord, that he believes in and loves God, praying and hoping that God would save him and free him from this life, but that doesn't happen. We flash forward and we see him as a conqueror, leading his army to war, now with the belief that God only listens to you if you spill blood in his name. And of course, that's not the case. We then see him being dragged to his execution, realizing that God was never there for him, not when he needed him most, and not as he is about to take his last breath. And so, before he is sent to hell for his many crimes, instead of hoping for God, he turns to the other side, in an act of cowardice, as he puts it, committing a crime against the God he loved so much up to that point. Now as an immortal monster, he hopes for death, wishing that there is a man strong enough to kill him, so his wounded soul may go to hell like he was supposed to all those years ago. He wished for a man, a human, to take him down. God's creation, the same God that forsook him all those years ago. So when a man finally brought the Count to his knees, he was happy. However, he would not be able to foresee what Abraham Van Helsing had in store for him. It's never shown how he did it, but Abraham was the one who made Alucard a servant to the Hellsing family for generations, making him their most effective and deadliest weapon against his own kind. And now we arrive at one of Alucard's most valued people, Integra, Alucard's boss throughout the series, and the only person Alucard obeys. If she wants something done, Alucard will do it without any objections. He is Integra's dog, and he's both obedient and loyal to her. And the main reasons are due to his massive respect to the Hellsing name, and one of the pillars of Alucard's character. he loves humans. Not only because he envies the fact that they can die, unlike him, but also admires when humans are strong and aren't scared in the face of death, which is exactly what happened when he met Integra. She was facing terrifying odds against her, and yet she wasn't scared of Alucard, going as far as to command him. From then on, he was loyal to her and was delighted to be her servant. And now we move on to Alucard's second most valued person, Seras Victoria. The way that Alucard met Seras was rather traumatic to her, to say the least, with her being sent to a town to investigate, only for her to realize that the whole town was turned into ghouls, and so were her partners, and she was about to be turned into one as well, until Alucard showed up and eliminated all of the ghouls, with only the main vampire left. With a shot through the heart, Alucard asked Seras a simple question. Do you want to live? Seeing her drive and her struggle to cling to life made Alucard take a liking to Seras, and so he turned her into a vampire, just like him. While he disregards her and never calls her by her real name, opting to simply call her a police girl, it's all a ruse. Alucard had an unspoken admiration and love for her, since even though she was now a monster, she was still a more human than he ever was, and was more than happy that she was his successor as Hellsing's dog. Alucard has a lot of things going on in his psyche, from his self-hatred to his relationship with God. It's quite a lot to go through. However, I think I can paint a clear picture of who he is by this statement alone. Alucard is a broken, depressed man who wishes to die by the hands of a worthy adversary, which would be a human, since he despises and mocks monsters like himself. He gained a thirst for battle from his time as a warlord, so he was searching and wishing to find that worthy adversary that will finally strike him down. And he did. In the last, and probably the most prevalent and most discussed character in their relationship with Alucard, Alexander Anderson. Now, to say that this man gave Alucard pause would be an understatement. He was one of the very few humans to attack him and hurt him for real in years. So to say that he developed a rivalry with him is saying very little. Alucard respected and admired Anderson, going as far as to call him his nemesis. He finally found him, a worthy opponent that he would be happy to be killed by. So imagine his absolute disappointment when Alexander considered becoming a monster like him. Alexander had an artifact that would make him as powerful as Alucard, but he refused. He wished to be killed by the man, not the monster, and begged Alexander to not take the same plunge he took so long ago. Because if Alexander were to kill him as a monster, his death would mean nothing, as there would be another monster to take his place.
Anderson! Stop it! Do you know what that thing will do to you? You'll become one of God's monsters. Maintain your humanity. Don't succumb to power. Either side, it amounts to the same deal. Whether in the name of the divine or demonic, you're still a monster in the end. This duel between us, would you really push it this far? A monster such as myself. A creature of such weakness that I could not bear the weight of a human life. If I am to be defeated, it must be by a human. Don't do it, human. Don't become a monster. A monster like me.
This to me shows that Alexander was everything Alucard loved about humanity. So when Alexander denied him the chance to die on his own terms, It hurt him more than anything. So with fury and determination in his heart, Alucard ripped Anderson's heart, which led to one of the most heartbreaking and beautiful exchanges I've seen in a show.
You and I are the same! You are me. I was just the same! Don't you understand? This is how I became what I am!
Demons do not cry. Are these the tears of a long-dead child? Demons do not cry. You became a demon because you couldn't cry anymore, right? Humans cry, and when their tears finally run dry, there's nothing left but a demon or a monster, and one final prayer for death. So laugh, demon. Laugh that arrogant laugh of yours and remember, I beat you to it. So how long will it be then? How long before you're no longer cursed to walk the earth?
Until the weight of my past is shattered by my oncoming future. It shouldn't be too long, my nemesis. I'll see you in hell.
It never stops hurting. Alucard's psychological profile should be plain to see at this point. We're dealing with a man riddled with PTSD and depression who copes by being both a sadist and a masochist. Someone who has an interest bordering in obsession with humanity, and someone who is very suicidal. There's a lot more, but I'd rather let a professional on the field take a better look, since I am but a messenger, and I'd like to see this blossom into something beautiful. And so we reach the end, where, at the cusp of his power, at the highest he's ever been, he gets brought down thanks to the help of omniscience and a cat. Then, he finally reflects on his life up to that point. He looks at the sunrise and finally realizes what he is, what he's been doing for centuries, and he chooses to leave, to stop existing. He realized his inner turmoil, and the turmoil within the millions of souls inside of him. So he disappears, disobeying his master for the first time, and leaving her and his apprentice behind, until he finally finds himself amongst the sea of blood. And so, who was Alucard? Alucard was a man that was broken, hoping for God to hear his plight ever since he was a boy that needed someone to save him, all the way to his demise as a warmongering conqueror. He defied his God and found himself as an immortal, begging for death at the hands of one of God's creations. One man brought him down and made him a servant to a line of strong humans, who he was more than happy to serve, as he found a purpose in serving them, killing his own kind, though he still hoped for someone to kill him. He had a warrior's mentality, saying that if you're out on the battlefield, you should be prepared to die, and didn't feel any remorse for killing his adversaries, and if they were afraid, they were just cowards and a meal to him. As the years went on, he grew admiration for humans, since he was enamored with their wills to live and their ability to die. But not only that, he also admired how strong some of them were in the face of unsurpassable odds. He despises monsters like himself, saying that he will never be killed unless it's by a worthy adversary. And so, every monster he encounters is dog food Alucard is a monster, but throughout his story, the mask slips, and we see that scared boy who wished to be saved. We see the self-hating man who regrets his decisions. We see the monster begging to be put down at the hands of something better than him. And that's who Alucard is. He's a monster, a man, a weapon, a dog. He is all of these things, and he's also way funnier in the original English dub. Way funnier than the Team 4-star version.
Drink my blood, police girl. No. Ceres Victoria. Why didn't you just drink the blood, you idiot?